Today we're going to talk about routine as a daily rhythm for recovery. Welcome to ActuallyAutistic, a channel dedicated to autism, ADHD and dissociative identity disorder. Most neurodivergent people struggle with time blindness. The ADHD brain lives in the now, and anything that's not now doesn't exist. This in effect makes us short-sighted when it comes to time. We can't predict what the consequence will be later on of not acting on something now. If I could rename ADHD, I would swap the attention deficit part for intention deficit, because when I'm focused, I'm on fire, but when I'm not, my life is on fire instead. If my time blindness is like being short-sighted, then what would the ADHD equivalent be of glasses? For me, that's my routine, and it helps give me a rhythm to my day that allows me to see time passing. I know that you're all probably shouting at the screen or rolling your eyes at me right now saying, I've tried routine and it doesn't work because I never stick to it. But hopefully I'll give you some tips that will help you give it another go. I noticed that the reason why most of my routines failed in the past is because I didn't plan time for my brain to just roam and seek novelty. So when you have to do something super boring like the dishes or cleaning your bedroom, find something to pair it with that's fun. If you're multiple, you can include your parts in this. So for example, when I'm doing the dishes, my little is dancing and singing her head off. And this keeps both of us entertained while I do the adulting. But you could do things like listen to a podcast. For example, I'm doing a lot of research for one of my art projects at the moment. So whilst I'm cooking dinner, I'm also watching interviews about different artists' practices, or I'm researching about neuroscience to help make these videos. This way, I'm still staying connected to my special interests while still getting life stuff done. I'm also getting a double dopamine hit because I get the dopamine from my interest and then the dopamine when the task is done. And my house looks great. So don't wait to the end of your task to get your dopamine. The next tip is to watch your task transitions. So the most expensive time of my day energy-wise is getting started. I try as much as possible to only transition into and out of work once. And I honestly think that's why we get waiting mode, because our brain is telling us this is going to be really sucky. I really don't want to do it until I absolutely have to. Now, this one might be difficult for you to do if you also have fibromyalgia or physical limitations, but it is still possible. You just have to be a bit smarter about managing your energy and switch between physical and mental tasks, making sure you change your body position. In the beginning of my recovery, keeping my house clean and feeding myself was pretty hard. I assigned a specific day to do each area of my house, and on a bad pain day, I pretty much just fed myself and had a wash, even if it was just a wet wipe. I still get days like this, but I find it much easier now to take care of life, do my artwork and my other projects like my DIYing on the house. Simply because once I start my work for the day, I try not to stop. Obviously, I still have to pause to eat, but I plan my work day ahead of time, so I set my day up so that food is already cooked and I can eat whilst I'm doing my writing. If I have a focus day, I follow it up with a novelty time where I let my brain just be in its natural state and enjoy bouncing around my interests. This has been the secret sauce to having enough rhythm in my routine to meet my needs without boring the absolute pants off of my ADHD. The next thing I want to talk about is when my brain says, but I don't feel like it. Because if I'm not feeling like something and I know that it needs to be done, I'll just have to try and find something that I do feel like doing and pair it with the boring thing. And this is what helps me pick that podcast or music that I want to be listening to give me that little bit of dopamine when I get started. I never ever pick the frog task to start my day with. And if you've not heard of that phrase, there was a book called Eat That Frog, which basically the premise is that if you have to eat a frog that day, you do it first and get it out of the way. But that does not work for my neurodivergent brain at all, because I will just resist the heck out of that and get demand avoidance and nothing will get done. So what I do instead is I pick some low-hanging fruit. Sometimes that's just cleaning the kitchen whilst I'm waiting for my porridge to cook, because I'm standing there anyway and it's only for 5 minutes. I can even race the microwave timer, which gamifies it for me. It might be running to put something in the letterbox at the end of the road. It might be writing out my to-do list for the day. But once I've done this simple thing, it's much easier to move on to the next thing, and then the next thing once I've got momentum going. The next thing to think about is, how are you motivating yourself? So if your to-do list looks like your inner critic on paper, why would you want to do that? Your to-do list should support you, as if it's an instruction list with broken down steps of how to go about getting that task finished. If you get stuck on this, imagine that your best friend is going to come and live your life for the day. Write out your to-do list for them and then give it to yourself. Because we would not think of running someone else ragged, doing our perfectionist ideal to-do list. We would most likely be much kinder and much more reasonable. If you find being realistic about how much you can get done in a day is difficult, then you're not alone. Another part of time blindness is not being able to see how long things take. Our estimates are usually much bigger for something that we don't want to do, or much smaller for the things that we enjoy. And this makes sense, right? Because experientially, that's how time actually feels to us in our body, but it's not a true reflection of time passing in the outside world. I did this experiment where we went around timing ourselves doing boring stuff that we kept procrastinating to see how long it actually took. In fact, there's a whole Facebook page dedicated to a lady who literally just times herself doing stuff she procrastinated. I think it's called How Long Did It Really Take? I'll find out and I'll link it in the description below for anybody who's interested, because it's hilarious and totally relatable. But don't let it be a distraction. The other thing that I recommend is getting yourself a diary and writing down what you actually do with your time. I'm not going to lie, this was really confronting and a little bit scary, especially when I was more dissociative, because I saw the gaps of times where my parts were coming out and I didn't know what was going on. So it might not be for you at first. But if you're in a good place in your recovery, it can be really helpful to give you data about the types of things that distract you or the task transitions that you find difficult in your week. Once we can see the problem, you can start to design solutions that fit you and your life. Remember, as always, everything I say on here is just the guide. And if you try it out and it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But I'd love it if you could leave a comment down below and let everyone know if you try any of these things, how it went. And if you got stuck, hopefully we can start to have some conversations where we can be supportive and give each other ideas. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe, because I'm going to make more soon, and I'd love it if you could hit the notification bell, but I do understand if that's a distraction for you. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!